Well, hello, welcome back to Business Brand Breakthrough and our Facebook Lives. If you haven't met me before, my name is Dawn Larson. I'm a marketing and branding strategist with Navigator Marketing and Dealership Marketing. Well, have you ever tried to create a high converting ad or advertisement for online for, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube? It's kind of daunting. Well, today we're going to talk about the 6 key elements that you need to have inside your advertisement to really make it high converting, to really catch people's interest while they're scrolling through their feeds and looking at different things on social media. So there's a lot of key elements in it. There is some testing involved, but when you follow these 6 tips that we're going to discuss today, you're going to see that it really makes a difference in the quality of your Facebook ads, how many people engage with your Facebook ads and your LinkedIn ads and your YouTube ads. So there's some key elements there. So if you're joining me live today, hi Lynn, hi Lorna, hi David, hi Fred. Thanks for joining me today. If you're joining on the replay, please, if you have any questions today, leave them in the comment section so that I can go back in after we launch the live and respond back to you. If you haven't met me before, my name is Dawn Larson. I'm a brand specialist with Navigator Marketing and Dealership Marketing. So let's get started. There are 6 key elements to really make a high converting ad that you may not have considered. Now, a lot of people, I'm connected to thousands of people on social media, and day in and day out, I see tons of ads that I scroll past because they're simply just talking about the business, how great the business is, how many awards the business has won, how many customers they have. And really, they're not focusing on the customer. A really, really good ad will really focus on the customer and their needs. And when you touch on that, when you touch on the frustrations and the pain points of the customers or your prospects, then you've got the start to a really high converting ad. Now let's start talking before we talk about the key content of an ad. Let's talk about the visuals. Now, if you watch your behavior on social media, on television, while you're watching videos on YouTube, it's a good indicator of what people are looking for, what makes you stop. I always watch my behavior to see how I react or engage with an ad when it catches my interest, and what on parts of those ads catch my interest, because it's a really good point to see what you are attracted to. But again, when you're creating an ad, you are really putting yourself into the position of your customers. And you may have a couple of different demographics or silos of customers. So you want to make sure that when you're building an ad, that you're building it for that specific target audience. The narrower your niche, the narrower your focus on the ad, the better you're going to have with engagement. It's just that powerful. Okay, so let's talk about visuals. Now, it's been statistically proven that videos outperform static images. Now, if you have a really good static image that is disruptive, that's visual, that can amplify your message and catch people's attention, it will work, but video works better. Statistically, we see higher click-throughs, we see more engagement when people use video. And here's the thing, you have 3 to 5 seconds to catch that swiper who's going through social media or YouTube to catch their interest. What's really important is in those in 3 to 5 seconds that you really catch their interest and say what you need to say to get them to stay on your ad a little longer. So a company named Ad Expresso did some research and found that they did static visual ads, they did video, and they did talking head video, and they wanted to see what was the best across thousands and thousands of advertisements. What they found out was that the animated video was good and the talking head video was good, but when you combined a little bit of animation or movement in the video with a talking head, it was the highest conversion. And so what we're talking about is if you're a car dealership that you have, some vehicles, moving vehicles or vehicles, you've got people going through your commercial with movement. And then you have some, key person doing some talking. Again, People usually only last about 15 seconds. You're lucky if they get to 20 to 30 seconds on an ad. So you want to make sure that it's very high impact and that you've got a combination of movement and talking head, and you'll see that that really makes a difference. So talking head is like right now while you're watching me on a Facebook Live, I'm talking to you and it's a talking head person, and if you couple that with a little bit of video commercial or video animation, not so much, it doesn't have to be cartoon, but moving animation, you'll see that that's a really good bet for a Facebook ad. Again, you want to stay away from the sales. I see so many times that yoga people are just pumping the yoga instruction and not really talking about how the customer is going to feel, what they're going to be doing, or how they feel after. And so, you want to change your focus from solid slamming ads. They get dismissed. People just dismiss it. So if you're putting money into ads where you're just, always selling you just have cars showing up on your ads, or you just have your HVAC product, or you're just talking about sign up for this course, you are going to find that people will scroll through it really quickly. So the second really important element once you have your visuals is that you want to have a hook. There's a hook, a story, and an offer that make up a really good high converting ad. And so the hook, you want to capture their attention. So if you're, selling courses on how to generate income online, it could be, let me show you how I went from, being dirt broke to, making 10,000 a month. Or if you're yoga, you could say, this person went from, being totally immobile to, feeling like the energy of a 20-year-old. But you want to have a hook that really captures their interest. Find out how, with bad credit, you can still get the car of your dreams. Those kind of hooks catch people. You don't want it to be cheesy, but you want to make sure that it really captures their interest. The next part is having a story. You really want to focus on a customer's journey or a prospect's journey. And so I find that the more you talk about the customer and how they've engaged with your product or how they could engage with your product, it doesn't always have to be a real story. It could be a hypothetical story. You don't have to focus on a client success story. You can focus on that in general, this is how a person transforms through your product or using your product or your service. But having a story, and I'm going to include a tip sheet in today's Facebook Live. So if you'd like that tip sheet to see some examples of high converting Facebook ads that you can use across I'll show quite a few different high converting ads. So if you want that, please add in the comments below, send me the tip sheet, and we'll make sure that you get it. But it will show you good examples of stories and hooks, and those are really important. The next part of that ad is having an offer. Now, all these things I'm talking about are not in the visual part of your Facebook ad. They are in the word part of your Facebook ad. And you will find, many times I see ads that say, come to my dealership, or, buy an HVAC system, or, get my program. And it's really too short. This is your opportunity to engage people and to tell them a little bit more about your hook, your story, and your offer, and the benefits of, whatever product or service you have. So you really want to use that word space, and you'll find that the best high converting ads have a lot of word content. It's broken up, so it's not big, long paragraphs, because that's very hard for people to read on mobile. But you want to make sure that it's, in bullet form or things like that. But having an element of a story. So for example, we're selling, for one of our clients, we're selling a battery operated fuel transfer pump. So it's really something you can put on a gas can and transfer fuel. We include in our ads stories of women using the apparatus to help them when they're, fueling up the lawnmower. We have stories about how guys who have this pump use it, and it makes it so easy it's portable, and they can transfer it to their boat and whatever, but we tell it inside of a story as a customer. And for our senior clientele, we talk about how there's no more heavy lifting and how it's so simple and no spilling of gas. But we tell a story, and that story then resonates with the person that's reading the ad. Now you'll say, well, my product's for somebody under 35. How would a senior resonate with that? Well, that's the thing, is that you are writing an ad for a specific target audience. So if your audience is under 35, then those stories are relevant to somebody under 35. If you're writing an ad for women, then you're writing an ad specifically for women of a certain age demographic, and you tell that story. So, as we go along in our Facebook Lives, I'll talk more about the different elements of a really good ad. But here, this is, creating the ad, but there's a lot in the back end for targeting as well. Okay, so we've talked about having a really compelling hook. And again, more details about the hook will be in the tip guide. And then having a compelling story so that people can connect and resonate with, your prospects and your audience, and telling them about what the offer is. So it's not in your visual, and it's not at the top of your offer or the top of your ad. It's in the middle, and in that middle section is where you're going to lay out the offer. It's buy two for $59.99, or sign up here. And the last part of a really good high converting ad is having a call to action in the word section of your ad. And it's the web URL. So it's like join now, learn more. Learn more is a really good high converting call to action, as opposed to buy now, shop now. So you really want to, you're leading people so they don't feel really intimidated, that they're just learning more. So learn more, and you have the web URL. In a really good high converting ad, the next element that I use is a testimonial, a short testimonial from a customer that already likes your product or service. And you want it to be in that right target audience. So you want, if you're, targeting seniors, you want to make sure that you have a testimonial from somebody who is a senior. You want to have it to be short as well, but really, it really helps out a lot. So those are packaged together, but really, really important. So the hook, the story, the offer, and the benefits with a call to action. And the call to action is a web URL. The next important factor is brackets. So a lot of times we forget to use brackets, but there's square brackets and there's round brackets. And those brackets at the top of your ad will really make a difference. So when I am talking and I'm selling, say, one of my Facebook advertising courses to real estate agents, I put attention real estate agents at times in the top of my ad in square brackets. And then if you're not a real estate agent, you kind of, scan over that. If you are, that catches your eye because you know that you are a real estate agent. So really important. So yeah, this is a really good thing to use. So again, in the examples that I send you, you're going to see some examples of how people use brackets to really, focus people's attention. So tip number 4 is using emojis. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's some people who overdo the use of emojis, but emojis are those characters. And emojis help us, if you can believe. First of all, they catch our attention, but second of all, they help us focus on where to read next. I use arrow emojis, I use up arrow emojis, and if I'm talking about, my Facebook Live, I may use a visual of a movie element. If I'm talking about you're going to make money, I may have a bag of money. But those elements are really powerful, but you don't want to overuse them. Again, when you're looking at how to design your word ad, you want to make sure that it's easy for people to read and comprehend. So there has to be some space around some of the lines. So if you've got 2 or 3 lines for first paragraph, then you have an emoji arrow that shows people, to read or to click through here. And then you're listing the benefits. You can use check marks, you can use bullet points, you can use yellow circles, blue circles. Those emojis really help people absorb that information and retain it really easy. So if you're just joining me on this Facebook Live, we're talking today about how to create a high converting ad, an ad that people will click through to your website on. And we've talked about that it's really important to use an video as an ad element, and then use talking head and sort of animation combined. We've talked about how it's really important to have in your word part of your ad a hook, a story, an offer, a call to action, and benefits and testimonial. And then we've talked about that it's really important to include brackets, on some key information, and also to include emojis. So here's a hack that has worked time and time again for us with our clients that we do Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads for, is that we don't use a call to action button. So I talked to you about including the call to action in the web URL inside the body of the word ad, but I do not include it at the bottom of the visual part of the ad for your Facebook or your LinkedIn. And it's proven time over time to really be interesting. You will notice that as you go through with social media advertising, the more that it looks native to the platform, the better things perform. And the better you get at making your ad on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook or Instagram look like it's part of the platform, the better you will get engagement and click through. So that's a really important one. And I'm going to talk about this is the sixth tip is that you can spy on competitors in your industry. You can go to competitive HVAC systems. You can go to competitive dealerships. You can look at the OEMs in your industry that supply you with your products or services, and you can look at the quality of their advertising. Now, you want to use it based on what you think is best for your audience as well, but you will see some key elements that they're using and what's working for them. And so in Facebook, again, in the guidebook, I'll show you how to find this. But on Facebook, you can look at somebody's Facebook business page, and you can go to transparency, and you can see the ads that they're running at this time, both in Canada, the United States, or the UK. So that's a powerful tool when you want to see what your competitors are using. And we often see that some of our competitors use our examples, so it's kind of interesting, and that just helps us to stay on our toes, and we fine tune our ads a little more each time. So it's not a bad thing if they look at yours, and it's not a bad thing if you look at theirs. You want to make sure, or you want to learn how they're targeting the audiences that you need to reach. So those are the key elements today of making a high converting ad. Now you'll say, does this just work with Facebook? It works across the board. We've tried it with LinkedIn advertising, Facebook advertising, Instagram, and YouTube. And you'll see that using these key elements in your Facebook advertising, LinkedIn, and everything will make a difference. So if you have any questions or any frustrations you have with creating high converting Facebook ads, leave it in the comments below, and I'll definitely respond to them. So for today, thank you very much for joining me on today's Facebook Live. I'm letting you know, this is an important announcement, that all our Facebook Lives from here on in will be on Thursdays at 12 noon. So Thursdays, we're moving to 12 Eastern. It was great feedback from the group that, Fridays are a very busy day for you, but Thursdays at noon work best. And remember, there's always a replay in Business Brand Breakthrough that you can look at. And if you're joining us on the replay, please don't hesitate to leave your comments in the comment section, and I'll reply back. So for Business Brand Breakthrough, my name is Dawn Larson, and thank you for your time. We'll see you next week.